Hello there girls and boys, in this video I'm gonna show you how I use Logic Pro X to write my music. Yes girls and boys, Logic Pro X is not just for people who want to make electronic music or pop or beats. In here I'm gonna show you how I use Logic to write rock and roll music or any form of rock and roll music in general. And by this I mean any form of music that might require a recording of a real live instrument and in combination with something like a digital synthesizer and a digital drum beat. Logic is really good because it comes with something called Drummer that it's gonna be a great replacement for those of you who don't have access to a real drum set or that don't know how to record a proper drum kit. If this is your first time in this channel, I welcome you. In here I show you every single thing I do in order to make, create, write, mix and master and of course perform my music live. Because I know that making a living as a musician is not a dream, it's a possibility, and if I can do it, you can do it. Now with that being said, let's get into it now. Welcome back to Logic Pro X girls and boys. In front of us we got an empty project in which we're gonna create a rock song. The way that you write music inside of Logic is by using channels, also known as tracks. Those are individual representations of sounds that are part of your song, okay? Imagine that you can have access to your guitars, your basses and voices and so on and so forth on an individual basis. With that being said, in this particular video I'm going to show you how to use 3 different types of channels that Logic has for you to use as a way to create a rock and roll track. The first of those channels is going to be an audio track. In this audio track you're going to be recording anything coming from the outside world, okay? It's going to be your electric guitar plugged into the interface, a microphone, or something like that, okay? The second type of channel that we're going to be using is going to be a MIDI or software instrument track. And as the name implies, is the ones that you're going to use to control the virtual instruments inside of your Logic. And the final one is going to be a drummer. And drummer is great because it allows you to have a virtual drummer inside of Logic. That's super cool. So with that being said, let's get into it now. Bam! Now that we're in front of Logic once again, the first thing to do is going to be this. We're going to go over here and we're going to click in this little button. Bam! Then we're going to be granted with this pop-up screen, and in here we have to select the right type of channel that we want to create. In this particular situation, we're going to select audio. Then we're going to make sure that the input, it's the one that we're going to be using. In this case, input number 2. And I'm going to create the channel. Bam. Now, if you want to make sure that your instrument is making sound, or if you want to confirm that the instrument is plugged into the interface, you have to press this little I button. This is going to allow you to have an input monitoring, which means that you can hear yourself playing without having to record what you are doing. Okay, so that's also good. Now, the thing that I like to do first is going to be going straight to this area and make sure that I have the right tempo. So I want to make sure that this track is going to be following at 125 BPM. Now that I established the tempo, it's time to rock and roll. Okay, now that I've recorded the guitars, it's time to add some drums, so let's do it. What we're gonna do is gonna go straight to the same little button. We're gonna click in here, and then we're gonna select a drummer track. Then we're gonna make sure that we're using a rock drummer, because actually it comes with different styles of drumming. But since this is a rock and roll environment, we're gonna make a rock track. Here we go. Create, and bam! We got our drummer track. So what's great about this is that it's already playing music. Let's hear it. Really cool, isn't it? So now I'm gonna drag around this region, because this is the name of these sections. These little areas, or these blue rectangles and this yellow rectangle, represents a recording or a sound source. Okay, in this case the yellow section or the yellow region is representing the drummer track. So that's how you will recognize it. Now, let's say that you want to add a new section of your drummer track. You're gonna click in here, and you're gonna create an automatically a new region, a new drum pattern. The cool thing about Drummer is that it has plenty of different bells and whistles. If you want me to show you those bells and whistles in a daily video, let me know in the comments down below. That you can control everything from the intensity of the playing to the different elements of the drumming in that section, which is quite neat. Now, I'm gonna clear up some of the space because that track it's not being used at the moment, and I felt free to use to create a new track, and in here I got a different recording of a different guitar section. So let's see how it sounds like now. The guitars are quite loud. So how do we fix it? If you press X on your keyboard, you're gonna have access to the mixer. In here, I'm gonna select both of our tracks, and I'm gonna change the name of them individually first. So that way we can know that one is guitar number 1, bam, and the other one is gonna be guitar number 2. Super useful. From there, I'm just gonna select both while I was holding Shift and then clicked on both of the tracks, and I'm gonna drag down the fader. That way, I will use my drum track, which is this guy, so-called, as a reference. So that way, I can make sure that the sound of my guitar is not overpowering the sound of the drums. So here we go. Great! Now that we got the foundation, it's time to add some bass. How are we gonna do that? We're gonna use a virtual instrument. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a virtual instrument track, and then I'm gonna load up a bass sound, and from there I'm gonna lay down the sound using my MIDI keyboard. So let me do it, and then I'm gonna explain it to you. So here we go. We're gonna go here as usual, and from there we're gonna select software instrument, and we're gonna click on create, bam, and here it is in all its glory. From there, what you should do is make sure that there is an instrument loaded up over here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click on it, bam, and then I'm gonna select one of a virtual instrument from all. So now I got it. So let me explain to you what I did. What happened is that I decided to use RetroSynth, which is one of the built-in instruments inside of Logic, and then I pressed record. But you can see that there's a huge difference between the three different, the way that the tracks looks in between each other. And this green one, this is the virtual instrument. And I'm gonna double click on the name, and I'm gonna change the name into bass. There it is. Now, if you double click on it, you're gonna be granted with this. This is the piano roll, and that's the main difference between a virtual instrument and a regular one, or a regular recording. A virtual instrument allows you to do this. Yes, if you are imagining it, yes, this is what happens. You can select any of the notes that you played, and you can change the pitch, and you can change the length, and in basic terms you can fix a faulty recording. Isn't that awesome? Now you might be wondering, how on earth did I manage to change the sound of my guitar in such a way? What I'm using is something called plugin. A plugin is a tiny piece of software that you use to dramatically change the sound of your recordings or virtual instruments. The way that a plugin works is just by going to this area. I'm gonna select the electric guitar track, and you will see that I got this one here. This is the area inside of Logic that you're gonna use to insert your effects or plugins, okay? Both of those terms refers to the same thing. Then if you want to change or modify any of the parameters of such plugin, you just go here, and you can see that we got 3 different elements. You click in the center, bam, and you're gonna get this, the plugin window. And actually, we got 2 different windows in here. This is the one that I used to create the bass sound. So I'm gonna close it down, and this is the one that I am working with at the moment, which is the sound of my guitar. This is THU, and THU is a great software that I use to create guitar sounds. If you want to know more about it, I got a video somewhere on the screen explaining some of the features. So now that I did all of the things that I have done, I'm going to show you how it sounds like now. I'm going to press play, and you will see that we got a way much more elaborated or much more developed track. You might be wondering, or you might be thinking, the sound of the bass, the synthesizer bass, is quite loud, and it's getting in the way of the rest of the instruments. That's a great question, and I'm glad you didn't ask, but the way to fix it is just by doing this. You might be able to see this. This looks like a fader, and actually it's a fader. That's great, because that way you can change the volume of your track without having to go to the mixer. Look at this. I'm just gonna select this area or this fader and then drag it down, and you can go to the bottom or to the top, which is awesome. So let's say that we leave it over there, and let's see how it sounds like now. And there you have it, girls and boys. As you can see, it's not that hard. It's just a matter of understanding how Logic Pro works. And once you get a grasp around it, you're gonna be able to create many things. Now, of course, as everything in life, it's going to require a little bit of time and effort. And I recommend you to go through the different videos that we have already uploaded to the channel, so you can have a better understanding on what to do with Logic. If you'd like to support this channel, the best way to do it is by listening to music on Apple Music or Spotify. Also following us on social media such as Instagram and Facebook. It's great for us. As every single time that I meet you, girls and boys, I gotta remind you something. Never, ever, ever let anybody tell you what to dream about. And I'll see you when I see you.